Hi y'all, welcome back. Today we are going to do an October wrap-up type video. I started out this month with audiobooks. The first one that I read was The Gathering Storm, Book 12 in the Wheel of Time. I've been working on my continuation of reading through the books, doing the whole series. Back in March I started thinking, okay, it's been long enough since I read it, I can do this again. I can totally deal with the end of the books again, because oh my god, the end of the last book, it just was, yeah, it was so hard. It was so hard. I don't know, I think the end of that book hit me harder than like most other series conclusions by far. Even Mistborn, even what happened in Mistborn series was not the same as the Wheel of Time. But I don't know, the Wheel of Time is kind of my favorite fantasy series though, so that could be why. Mistborn though was really amazing when I finally read it. And okay, I don't think I should talk too much about The Gathering Storm and like what it's about and everything, because it is book 12, so you know, you're really far into the series with a lot of the character development and stuff and different characters coming into play. Just one big world thing did happen in this book that it kind of had been building up towards for the past 2 books or so, and it was amazing when it happened. It was like, yes, you go girl. Maybe a little bit of a spoiler there, but you know. Rand's plotline though in this book was definitely not one of my favorites, because the way he's been acting the past few books, but like this book he finally got kind of to the better point at least. But yes, should not super talk about Wheel of Time. There's tons and tons of that on YouTube already, and a lot of people who think there's too much Wheel of Time, but it is my favorite show, so I am going to talk about it a little bit. Also, nervous, excited for the show that is premiering next month. Yeah, gonna watch it. Still nervous, but gonna watch it. Okay, so the next thing I listened to this month was also another continuation series of A Court of Thorns and Roses, where I was listening to the 3rd book, A Court of Wings and Ruins. In this one as well, I shouldn't say as much because it is a 3rd book, so I don't want to give away too much stuff. And book 3, Feyre is really coming into her own, accepting her role within the fairy courts and really finding how her place is and what she can do for her people, because that's what she's wanting to do every book. You know, she's a protector, a take care person. She took care of her family. Sure, she was like more pushed into that role, but that's just the type of role she is. She takes care of people. And that's what she wanted to do in book 2, but she was told, you've done enough. But now she's finally able to fulfill that. The world also expanded, and we got to like see more of the actual courts and how they work together instead of just the night court and the spring court. And that was it in the other books. Like, that's all you saw of this giant world. But now we've definitely been able to see more and understand even a little bit more about why some people are the way they are. And I loved it. I mean, maybe it's one of those guilty pleasure reads, but not really. Should be, you know, anything you like to read, you should read. Even though one of the things on this list, I will probably definitely say this was kind of like okay, I'm a little bit embarrassed, but okay. After that one, or during both of those really, I was reading this one as my physical book that got carried around in my bag with me. This one, The Honeymoon by James Patterson. I brought this one home from my mom's with a big group of books that I've had for a while, and she's just boxed them all up, and she's like, you should take these with you. So I brought them home, and I was looking for another one that I could carry around with me without having to go to the library and find something maybe. And this one was a good thriller mystery, and I was like, okay, I haven't read it, let's give it a shot. So this one is about a murderess who preys on wealthy men, and the FBI agent who is stopping her. It was very interesting because it did turn a few times in ways that I didn't think, and I didn't actually get to see the ending coming. Like, sometimes sometimes with like thrillers and stuff, you know, it's very laid out for you, and it's not much of a challenge or a mystery really, the what's going to happen there at the end, who did it. A lot of the times you know who did it, and while those are okay, those are great, it's still nice to have some that you don't know right from the bat. Well, I mean, you did know. You knew exactly who the lady was the whole time, but you didn't know exactly what was going to happen at the end, how it was going to play out. So that was nice. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little read in between all the massive series reads that I have going on. Jumping now into silly massive series reads. For spooky season, I wanted to read books with magic. I wanted to read witchy, Halloween-y type books. And I have had the Sweep series for a really long time, since high school, but I haven't actually read the series since then either. But I was like, they're all small enough. I know that I had the book box coming in and I want to try to get some things from the library. I was like, I'm going to read this series. I want to get into the magic again. I want to do the witchiness. So I read books 1 through 6 of the Sweep series before, because they are so short. And a lot of most series books, when you get started with the continuation book of this series, it does do like recaps and stuff. But with them being so very, very short, the recaps then were happening very often instead of spaced out like when you normally would read it. You know, you don't read them all at once generally. And I was like, okay, I'm probably gonna stop now. I still like the series. It's about a high school junior, Morgan Rowlands, who's at the very beginning of her junior year even, life is started to change, is turned upside down kind of by the new boy in school, who is so charismatic and caring, and he just brings all the different people from different sides of the school together to, you know, get into Wicca. And they have a circle meeting and they call upon magic, and then the ones that are actually care about it and into it, not talking about it like a joke, they form a coven. And they continue working magic through the first book, and Morgan's experiencing, you know, more magic and more feeling than anybody else in the coven, except Cal, who is the boy who came in. Cal Blair is a witch. So, and he said he's a blood witch, so that means he was born, his bloodlines have been witches for generations. And so he feels the magic, and she can really feel the magic. She's very in tune with it. And through the book, it just goes through the different experiences of like her coming to terms with this, trying to figure out why it's affecting her so much more. And it leads from like the beginning of their school year up to the conclusion around Halloween, I think. Yeah, I think the last one is what happened, the events of Halloween, and a big revelation kind of for her at Halloween night. And then the second book picks up immediately after the conclusion of this one, like the very next day, and what revelations it comes through her life through there, all the way, you know, continuing on. I think the course of the whole main part of the series, the whole 12 books, all takes place within like that 1 year, if I remember right, and it's been a while. But after the Sweep series, I picked up a manga from the library called The Library Wars. This series is about it's not really a future Japan, but more of like an altered kind of present, where the national government has decided that several books are offensive and counterproductive. They find that they are harmful for children and society in general, so they ban them. Well, the local cities, governments, and libraries don't believe that that should be a thing. Like even books like with princesses and monsters and stuff like that, they think that that is bad. So the libraries formed the library task force, and the task force job is to protect books. And they actually become like a militant type group a little bit to protect the books. And they will bring in books from bookstores, because there are still bookstores, and put these protected books and issues of at least every book, every magazine and everything within the local libraries. That way people can come into the libraries to read these sort of banned books, and they protect, you know, people's right to read whatever they want. which I find this series cute. It does deal with like that serious topic, but it is still kind of cutesy a little bit. The main character is very driven but goofy kind of, and accident prone-ish. She so wants to do good at her job, and yet some things she's just kind of so bad at, but she tries so hard. So I think it's adorable. After that, I picked up The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I've had this one for a little bit, but I just recently got to read it, and I did not even know that this took place in was a fall book. So when I started that and heard that part, I was super excited. The Darkest Part of the Forest falls in between her first books of the modern fairy tales, which is Tithe, Valorant, and Ironside, and then we'll have this one before the Folk of the Air series. This book follows Hazel and Ben, who live in the town of Fairfold. This town lives right on the edge of a fairy forest, so all the people there know about the Fae, and they believe that they live in harmony kind of with them. They know that the Fae can be tricksters, but they don't think that they ever do anything actually bad. They feel they have an agreement with them. They think that only bad things and harmful things will happen to the tourists. There is also at the center of this and the center of their town's tourist attraction, because the tourists, they come in for a reason, and this is because there is a boy in a glass coffin who has been sleeping in the town for decades. And it's not just a boy, it's a fairy boy. And they believe, Hazel and Ben believe that he is a prince, and they call him their prince, and they have dreamed of waking him up and freeing him and saving the whole town since they were little. But then, as they started growing up, Ben started not wanting to have those magical adventures anymore, and Hazel still wanted to. She wanted to be a real knight. She wanted to wake the prince up and save the town from the bad fairies. And as events unfold, it seems like one of them has been still living what they wanted to do, living that dream. So I really, really enjoy this book, but I do enjoy all of Holly Black's fairy series, so I would love it if she would write more. But can't we just reread it and keep pushing TBR books back down the list. Okay. Next, I picked up the book from my book box, The X-Hex by Erin Sterling, and I was a complete doofus in my unboxing when I was looking at this spoiler card, and it's they listed a different author, in which the editors did list another author's name, but technically the same author. And if I just read the back of the book, I would have known that. So Erin Sterling also writes as Rachel Hawkins. On this book, she did put Erin Sterling, and the spoiler card, they did put her other pen name down. And clearly they should have put the one that she had on this book to avoid confusion of dummies like myself. But about the book though itself, it was good. It was really good. I enjoyed pretty much all of it. Some of the points though, it was why? If you feel like 2 pages ago he knew what you were thinking, when mostly because maybe the guilt, you were thinking something bad about him. You're like, oh my god, how could he know that? But then when you guys are getting close and he thinks maybe you guys can make up, and all of a sudden you're shutting it down, thinking no, he's thinking the same thing as I am, that of course this can't happen. Come on. Okay, another thing I was wrong about from my unboxing video, this is not about a new dude entering her life. This is about the same dude. So at 19, after a heartbreak, Vivian curses the despicable, smart-aleck Reese Penhallow. And it's a joke, kind of. Well, it's a drunken, horrible decision. But Vivian and her cousin Gwen just assumed that they were just blowing off steam, that they wasn't really making magic. They were using Bed Bath & Beyond candles. But apparently they really did. They really did curse him with Bed Bath & Beyond candles. But nobody knows for 9 years until he has to come back into town to help with the 25th anniversary Founders Day to recharge the ley lines that his ancestor used to fuel the town's magic. Which is another odd thing. Ley lines are generally naturally occurring forces in the land, but Aaron Starling decided though that these could be also placed occurrences, which is different. Never seen it used before. I'm not saying, and that's why he had to come back into town. He assumed that she might not even remember him. He thought about her over the years, but as soon as he gets back into town, things start going wrong, and he's like, I've never had this much bad luck, and he starts to think that, well, maybe something is wrong magically, especially when some of his own magic doesn't work right. But of course everybody's like brushing it off. No, it's just a coincidence, until he has to do something larger with the ley lines, and then it affects more than just him. It's all of a sudden the whole town. The adorable first effects though of the effect on the town is the cat. The cat wakes up Vivian by talking, and all it can say is treats. It is adorable, so adorable. But so now Vivian and Reese must work together to save the whole town, because it's so much bigger than either of them, and they can't just let this happen to the town that she loves. It takes place in North Georgia, which, I don't know, since it is kind of mountainy, maybe more of the fall time feeling is actually occurring at that point. But as someone who lives like in Alabama, yeah, it just got cold today. 2 days before Halloween, it just got cold, and all the trees are still green. So reading it was a little bit of a like, well, maybe, but I don't think it really feels that fall-y at the beginning of October. At least not the last several years. Maybe a long time ago. Oh, but that is not the point. This was still a really adorable book, and I think everyone should probably try it that likes a little good fluff romance, slight comedy, and Smart Aleck guys. If Smart Aleck dudes is your thing, Smart Aleck dudes is my thing, so definitely. And then the last book that I'm reading, have read this month, is I Am Legend. I picked this up at the library with Practical Magic, which I no longer think I'm going to be able to get to because there's only 2 days left in the month, and there's just too much Halloween-y stuff to do with the kids, and I don't want to rush reading it, because that would just, it would be a little sad, so it'll probably just have to wait till next month, next year. Just read it next Halloween. I decided that I wanted to read at least one vampire book this Halloween, and I didn't want it to be the ooh lovey-dovey vampires. And I don't think vampires are exactly horror. Like, I cannot do scary. I can't watch scary movies, but I can watch vampire movies. I can watch vampire movies. I can do vampire books. Vampires, I'm okay with. They're just not horror. But with this one being blurbed by Stephen King and Ray Bradbury, and I mean, Stephen King says, like, Richard Matheson is the one who influenced him the most as a writer. Stephen King, horror supreme. So I expected this one to be like, okay, it might make you be a little scared. It might give you the cringies. No. The book was good, though, because it was a very good piece on the effects of loneliness and isolation on a person when the world is, like, falling apart. It was very short, like, picking this up at the library and everything, I did not think it was a short book. I mean, 300-something pages. I was like, but then I was like looking at it, and it's not all I Am Legend. It's more short stories with it. It's only 175 pages, and it deviates a lot from what Hollywood did to the movie, for sure. Like, the ending, of course, totally different. The ending of the story makes the name make way more sense. And thankfully, the bit about the dog was different than the movie, because the dog in the movie definitely made me tear up some. But the book did not play into the dog as a character as much. It was something to make him, of course, feel for the world around him again, but it wasn't super as emotional which I'm glad for. It was still sad, and it still, affected him, but it wasn't like huge like the movie. So yeah, I also read 2 more of the short stories in the book, Witch War and Dance with the Dead. Dance of the Dead. Where is it? Dance of the Dead. Witch War was about, it was like 10 pages long. It was just about a group of 4 or 5 young women overseas with a war. And they're in an encampment, and the commander receives the word that the enemy is close, and like he tells them, and through some method they deal with it. Judging by the title, they're witches. It never specifically says, it doesn't say exactly how they work or anything. And so it's just, I don't know what he was trying to say with that piece. I really don't. It was a very detailed, though, like it gave a lot of details about the mud that the people were walking through. It almost sounded like a poem to start with. It's like, this is a very long poem. But it wasn't. It's just, I feel it's just a short story. It's different. And Dance with the Dead is another different piece. It's a think piece, though. In the story, it's supposed to take place in 1997, but most of these were written in the 50s. I Am Legend also the book takes place in 1975, starting with. And being written in the 50s, and then he's writing as a future point of view from what he believes it would be like at that point. It is quite different then from anything, but he doesn't make references, though, to things that, would have been around at that time. It's just, he throws out the date as just this is when, like 1997, after World War III. That was different, and how the world looks different, and it's just about 4 college students going out for a night on the town, and pretty much peer pressure, I guess, and acceptance of it. By the end of that one, though, I don't know. I don't feel like much happened in that book except the giving in to the peer pressure. And yeah, so I Am Legend was definitely a good one. But the other short stories I just didn't care to read as much, especially after the 2 that I did. I Am Legend was definitely an interesting piece with a lot of more analytical, I guess, about the human nature and everything of what we in society would go through. And I think that's also possibly what his other short stories were supposed to be looking at. But I don't know, I couldn't connect with the short stories as much. And I feel like they really didn't have maybe as much of a purpose, a plot. I don't know, I couldn't, the short stories couldn't tell me anything, I guess. So, yeah. Don't think of it as horror. It's just an interesting think piece on the collapse of our society. From 1954. Yeah. Okay. So, that's it for what I read in October. I'm hopefully going to put up the November TBR readathon information next week. I really hope that we can keep doing these videos because I would love to keep talking books with you guys, and I promise I can talk about books. I'm sorry if my summaries were a little rough and awkward babbling, has happened maybe, I'm trying to get better. I know how to speak literally, I promise. Well, that's it for me. We have lots of Halloween stuff to do this weekend, and I hope that you guys have a lovely Halloween weekend and have lots of fun and get to do all the spooky things or not spooky things that you want to do. Have a great day, y'all. Bye.